Alrighty, what are we doing? I think probably, nope. Probably weight training again. Hey, crazy cat, careful, don't knock it, don't. Welcome back to Ren Diaries. We're now on week 3 already. Crazy times. So here is the standard disclaimer. Please go and watch week 1 of Ren Diaries to understand exactly why realistically you probably should not go ahead and get this breed of dog. I'm not trying to gatekeep the breed or be elitist. I'm just trying to keep everybody safe and make sure that the dog's welfare is the priority. These dogs are not for the faint of heart. They're incredibly confident, bold, and have an insane amount of energy. They're smarter than 99% of the majority of owners, including probably me, and they deserve to have the level of experience and dedication that's just out of this world. So please go ahead and have a look at that, and then we can get stuck in. So would it be Ren Diaries at this stage without having some little position work, which we just go in and reiterate each and every time to make sure that we are basically building on the foundations. And I'm so excited to show you week 4 and 5 because you'll see how these things kind of all come together to operate in a different environment completely. But week 3 was a really important one because we had some bits and pieces we needed to check off of our to-do list. Part of that was to consolidate and reiterate weight training. You can see that in our normal daily training sessions, that weight training is building up really nicely now. And considering she's only been home at this stage for like 2 weeks and 1 day, it's a monumental achievement to be at this stage. You just saw her slightly come out of that position there. And then she's just gone and changed position. So that requires a correction from my part. And the correction is literally just a replacement in the position that I left her in. The point of doing just the sit and the weight at the moment is essentially that it will build over time. So we can build on that and then do a down state. Essentially, she shouldn't change position, the position that she's placed in during that weight process. So some lateral works, which are really, really, really important. And these you'll see as her training develops, I'll start to cross behind her. And that's a really good training for rear crosses and agility, but it also is really good for positioning subject in a way for photography. And as always, we always make sure it is super, super fun by doing some toy play as well. So building up on that leave, especially with a big toy. And in this case, I'm being super loud to prepare her for crowds and applauses and things like that. That's all normal stuff for us. So we go for it. Training session again. It's like a broken record. I do hope seeing these things is useful. There you can't now do it on the side of the rug. Oh, it's crazy. Hey, down. Yeah, down. Coming up out of a position whilst getting the reward is something that I will get stricter and stricter on as we move forward. It's not something, I don't want to kill the confidence too young. So it's something I kind of will allow a little bit, but then now we're like, no, you need to be rewarded in position and not lift out of it. So there was another correction. Really simple stuff, but it builds that understanding, and there's no lures involved in the unders at all anymore. And the close is still supported a little bit by the leg, but not so much as it was. I'm moving things around. I'm making noises whilst we're doing our weight and still doing nice big rewards for when she's got the right answer. I want to build up to essentially being able to obviously, lie down, take pictures, flap around on the floor. And you'll see by the end of this episode, week 3, how all of this ridiculous stuff inside pays off when you take it outside. And that's when it's really, really important. So covering the face again with a camera body, just really little things, but they're like little building blocks, and you build up the mountain or the building or the skyscraper or the city, or whatever metaphor we want to use to be able to do that. So this one for me was really important because I'm going out of sight behind a doorway, usually a tricky point to solidify a weight for. However, foundation training has paid off really well because she actually did really, really well with that little duck behind the corner. And I went totally out of sight there, but she broke, so we reposition, make it super simple just to reinforce exactly what we're actually asking for. And then after that kind of like mini reinforcement happens and I stop dropping snacks everywhere, something that I think we've also got used to, I then go and just do a direct repeat of that previous one. And I hold my yes until we're really there. And as you can see, we started to really build enthusiasm in that close behaviour. Peekaboo. It's important that she experiences both us and also members of our family, strangers coming in and out, but that also she can go and take herself to self-soothe and settle, which she does absolutely fine. As you can see here, she's just chilling out in the crate there. She had a little bit of a cry and then went to bed, which is normal. That's absolutely normal. And you can see going to sleep. Then meeting strangers, friends, family, really important for me. It's important for her to meet men, women, different ages, different races, different appearances, different clothing, and just to know that they're friends. I can't fully control exactly how they're going to interact, so I just try and guide if possible, but also she's not going to always have perfect interactions, and it's important that she can manage herself. And then loads and loads and loads of free time. I don't put loads of her free time in here because I don't sit and film it, but she does have lots and lots and lots of downtime, and then we regroup again to go for a training session. And this one was a really interesting one. Because I'm just sort of reinforcing some bits and pieces with Dan. So what we're doing here is we're going to essentially practice some recall drills. I'm just briefing Dan on exactly what I want. So he's got the toy, one of her favourite toys, and essentially he's going to try and get her to chase the toy, which isn't too difficult. It is if he goes into that corner, because she's not 100% confident in that corner apparently at the moment. So he goes and encourages her away, and then I do recalls. When I do the recall, the toy's picked up at this stage. However, we'll build up to recalling off of a toy running away along the floor, which is a really big test for a recall, and it's one that I like to do just to know exactly where we're at. It's really important, though, that we don't kill the drive for the toy by consistently kind of pulling it away. So she does have to win it at times. And so when she wins the toy, that drive to go ahead and chase is reinforced. It builds up, and then it's stronger the next time for when we try and do a recall pull off. So you have to kind of balance them together. Amazing. Amazing little poopy. So I was really happy with that one, if I'm being honest. And so we went to do standard recall drill. This is probably what most people would do, where both people have food. One calls the dog to them, rewards the dog. When the dog has finished eating, the other person then calls the dog to reward the dog with them. And it really builds drive for that recall. I don't like to do it when they're kind of like too much older, because I don't want to reinforce running to strangers, but really helpful at this stage. Ren also learning that Finn is very, very, very tolerant, but he's got his limits. So little Grandpa Finn and Ren just, learning their boundaries. All is good. Then lots of play. We're starting to reinforce a little bits of retrieve. I realise I've not kind of covered a lot of this. It's mainly because it's in her free time and it's really hard to film. But what we want to achieve with this essentially is that she wants to go and get the object, whatever the object is, and then return it to us to basically have it done again, because it's more fun that way. And that's what we're enforcing here. So normal training here, as you can see, crate protocol. She's absolutely fine around boundaries now. And she will wait 99% of the time for you to say, okay, for her release cue. And this behavior that I'm just going through now is one that we don't need to do at this stage, but it's really helpful to start to build a little bit more of drive back into the handler, even though the point of it is that we're driving away from it. So it's a bit hard to understand, not one at all that we would overdo, because it's not good for baby joints, but it's something that we can have a play with. So she's going around the object, And I'm fading the handler already, and then we'll start to build a little bit more distance. Hopefully you'll be able to see some sticky bits in this. I think you've already seen one. There we go. And then it was time to go out. Today we're in Beverley to go and basically show Ren bigger crowds of people, wild dogs that aren't, in a woodland environment. Maybe take a few pictures, go and sit in a coffee shop. Essentially just learn that when we go and do urban stuff, or when we go out for the day, or when we're camping and we need to go to get some food, that it's basically preparation for pub beer garden pub dog life. Still in Bright's jammies, they fit a bit better now-ish, still a bit long, but she travelled so well today. She launched straight into the crate. She was like, we're going somewhere. Full set of food, got more than a meal, we're all set. Here she learned basically about loads of different types of traffic, kind of all in one go. And we just sort of exposed her to everything. This is so important. This is really, really, really important timing wise. And we'll go through that next week in terms of the different stages that puppy development happens in. But right now, this is a really good time for her because she's carryable to be able to actually carry her through a slightly busier environment with lots of people who are going to stare at her, people who are not going to greet her appropriately, people who perhaps don't have a great level of knowledge and understanding. And those things are really useful for her in later life. So that was something that we wanted to do. Walking, as you can see right now, with my very well controlled filming skills, to the Minster in Beverley, where I just wanted to grab a couple of pictures of her at this age to make sure I'm keeping on track with my goal. I literally only shot maybe, 3 to 4 final pictures, but that's absolutely fine because the goal was not to create anything out of this world. It was just to document this moment because this location is important to me and I liked it. So little potato there in her jammies, she's going to get ready to have her photo shoot, and I'll include some clips from that also in here. So the behaviours that we've been working on, of course, are primarily just kind of like a sit, a stand. She's done a couple of bits of attention with me. However, I knew being in this location, she would actually have a lot of people walking past. So you can see in the background there some dogs, and they were really helpful also to just get her attention, but also reinforce not running after them. And then Dan threw snacks all over the floor and had to pick them all up. After we did that and we got our little pictures, which by the way, super cute, we then headed out to back up into the town. And on our way back up into town, into the main town centre, we were stopped by a few people who met her quite appropriately, to be honest. It was fine. You can see she's quite relaxed about that happening. And by this point, we're actually quite chilly. It was quite cold on this day. So we headed out to go to a really dog-friendly cafe, Polly's in Beverley, where they give you a little plate of sausages. And in this cafe, what I wanted to achieve, if we could, was basically to have some relaxation. Didn't need to be massive, but just some relaxation and hopefully some level of self-control, maybe perform a few behaviors. And as you can see, she did really well in this environment, lots of people eating, lots of different behaviors, chilling, settling, meeting and greeting people in a fairly appropriate manner, to be honest. She genuinely did really well. A few little bits where we sort of started to just work on essentially desensitization to things. So we were right next to the stairs here. And as people were coming up the stairs, obviously she was watching them, which is absolutely fine. But as long as she remained in position, then that's good enough for me. That's absolutely fine because I want her to look at things moving because I'm going to need it later. So I don't need or want 100% handler focus. And here she is having some of that little free sausage that they always give to the dogs. And it's just a really nice thing, I think, to do because it gives the dogs, well, it gives the humans, if they've not brought anything, something to do with the dog whilst they're in the cafe. So 10 out of 10 from me.
There's a good girl. Yes. There's a good girl.
Amazing learning opportunity, and she loved it. So back home, different day, different training session, and essentially same as normal. We want to build on things that we've done, reinforce things that are already learnt, and then build new things. So those three things are things that we will want to be doing every single week. And in this case, she's just settled in the pen on the right-hand side whilst I'm sorting everything out. No big dramas. She settles by herself in there, all part of kind of crate training, realistically, even if she's not in the crate. And then she can come out to do her training time. And on this one, what we're going to be working on is some more kind of going around the cone, but adding a little bit more distance and also changing position because I'm going to be stood up for these ones. So that's quite a big change in terms of puppy style, what we're doing. So we'll start to add some distance, start to add some handler movement. And as long as she's got it really good, then that's all we need. And we can switch to doing something different like play or a different behavior entirely if we want to. Play is really important. Obviously, she's a breed that's going to have a very high drive to bite, tug, pull things, but she does need to know her self-control, be able to not redirect onto hands and arms, and also be able to leave when asked. And that's all things that we're building at this stage because we're going to use the tug in the future to reward behaviours. So all foundations, really.
Dog walk plank and 2 jumps.
Can you stop swearing? You say it to me all the time. Poor little Remba is too young for that.
That's why we is bent over to try and cover it.
Oh, Remba. Right, are we ready? She's like, I'm always ready. So this time, what we're going to do is we're going to go out and test her. And this is testing my training, testing her, and also testing Dan's memory of how to do dog agility. So we thought we'd use little Pippi, who's very, very, very fast, very accurate, and she growls a lot when she's tugging. On essentially, they're going to do some stuff, and we're going to not be interested. We can watch, but we can't move. We can watch, but we can't lunge. We can watch, but we can't bark. All preparation stuff, amazing for self-control. So I'm doing things with little Remba on the plank because it's just easier to give her a place to contain herself, and those two are doing stuff there. Now this was way too easy, so we thought we'd make it harder by introducing the seesaw. The seesaw makes a very loud bang when it drops, and Piper does it at full speed. But again, that was too easy. So upping the ante again, and this time Dan just started to put together like a little mini sequence with Pip, and she did blooming great. So I'm doing weights. I'm not even holding on to her lead at this stage.
Yes, good girl, good. Okay, wow.
Good, isn't it? To see how young she is.
I'm so impressed with her, honestly.
See. Okay, round. Yes, good girl.
Super.
See. Okay, wow, good girl.
Fantastic. So I moved her a little bit closer there. Absolutely fine. So we got stuck again because she was being too good. Me still doing my weights. Dan still running up on more and more complicated little sequences. And we're just trying to make sure that the foundation work that we've done is solid. Now, Piper and Ren obviously have a standoffish relationship because Piper's the fun police. So it was also important that we did this with Beanie, who's Bright's bestie. Now, Bright is extremely chaotic, and Ren obviously loves that. So this was much harder for Ren to kind of control herself. We worked through some little bits and then started to just do some little behaviors on the plank before we called it a day, essentially. Bright giving 100% all the time, as per usual. I think maybe just in case someone's interested, it's probably worthwhile me just kind of walking through this super fast. Notice when I am rewarding and when I'm not rewarding. So I'm not distracting her with the food. And that's a really important differentiator to have here. What I'm doing is I'm testing her ability to ignore or hold, and then I'm rewarding after that distraction has completed. Moving on, we are back with some more family. I didn't have my face on at this point, but I tried to just basically ask Dan, can you just film her chilling whilst there's different people in the room? Because this is all building up that behaviour, those behaviours. So she's already said hi and met them, and then back to nap. Flat out, like a little pancake or mashed potato, whichever your preference would be.
Do you remember how I said that, like, we've talked about this? Well, that's true now.
What's he doing in here? Down. Yes, good. Wow, that was so clever. That was so clever. I'm so impressed with you.
In this training session, I wanted to try and introduce a new thing because she's been doing reinforcement of things we've already covered. So first of all, I need to make sure we can reverse and come forwards. Took a little bit of time to just get those good backward steps. But when I was happy that I could reverse and go forwards, then it was time to reverse the truck back into the middle position. So this is what we'd call a middle. Under is going around the back. Middle is coming in from the front. Much harder, much more complex. Under is very easy to train because it's more of a lure and shape. This is a lured behavior. Luring takes longer, essentially. And also I'm not very good at reversing. So this was a really good thing for us to have a play with. Another thing to add to her repertoire of lured behaviors around the handler. So just to keep her engaged, as you can see, reversing skills not so great, but full rewards given when she got into the correct position. And you'll see that build in the future as well. Then she needs to go and do some toilets because it's practically bedtime. So heading out with her, I've given her a cue, go to toilet. I'm saying it again, go to toilet. And then off she goes, all the way down to her favorite poop patch. And there she goes and does some business. However, I won't ruin her privacy. And instead we'll head back inside where she likes to go at 100 miles an hour. When we're back inside on an evening, usually we have some chill time. The dogs can sometimes mill around together as long as they're under supervision. So you'll see her and Bright have a little moment on one of the beds, and then she can come inside to kind of just play with us. She hasn't quite worked out how to get on the sofa. Not that she would, because again, it's only by request if they're allowed on the furniture in our household. And then she can have some free time with some toys. Here we've got a chuck it ball, really good balls. Tennis balls can actually file down the teeth over time. So it's good to have some different balls so that it's not just tennis balls. And also, I don't want to train or allow the dog to shred the toy. So these toys are really good for basically preventing that, especially as puppies. As the puppy gets tireder, in any puppy, they'll get either overtired and louder and more chewy, or just more chewy and bitey. So toys are really important at this stage. And then moving into the next morning, another day, another training session. Here we're working on our reversing skills again to do some more middle work and just reinforcing positions. I'm looking for at this stage really quick sits and downs. And that's something that's building very, very, very well at this stage now. So you guys know that she was a little bit sticky before, a little bit slow on the down. That's no longer evident. We're all good. Just goes to show, trust the process, trust the training, and trust the behavior.
Down. Flat. Yes, good girl.
Running through some flat training. I did actually feed on that one before she was actually in a full down, but you know, chalk it up to experience. I'll make sure I'm better next time. And then just settling down. So she's in her pen. She's been in there. I'm going to go and get a cup of tea in my corridor house. And when I come back, absolutely no problems whatsoever. All the dogs know the drill. No one moves. We're all calm, chilled, collected, no dramas. Everything's very relaxed. I bet Bright was like itching to run around, but never mind. So this one, we're out doing some weight proofing this time. So we've done lots of different things. I'm getting ready, limbering up to do some extravagant fitness expeditions. Dan's going to be treating and rewarding the weight. He's also going to be essentially handling. So it's his commands, his reinforcement, his releases. He is not Ren's primary handler, but it's important that I can go and take photographs, run around like a crazy person, go and do all sorts of things, and she's not going to come and run after me. So this is what we're reinforcing at this stage. I can do anything, end up on the floor, and we're all good in the hood. What we also need to do though is reinforce some slightly more tricky scenarios and also reward some attention for noises. This is going to break consensus here because normally you would not train what I'm about to train, but for us actually this is really important. So as long as she sticks to the criteria, she looks at the noise but she does not move anything, then 10 out of 10, and then she can get her reward. Now in this scenario it's Dan, so her biggest reward is going to be to actually break and run to Dan. And that's something that we will have her do when Dan is on the floor. But I also need to be able to recall her off of someone, anybody, especially one of her favourite people, at any point for either safety purposes or because, you know, she picked the wrong person or because she's got distracted. So you can see that build here. So I'll be quiet and let you listen to this for just a minute.
Wait. Wait. Okay. 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 Oh, made it. Good girl. Yes. Yeah. Oh god, that was a giant piece of chicken that one. Wait. Okay. Good girl. Wow. Hey, do you want me to call her?
Yep.
You sure?
Yep.
You really sure?
Yep.
Right, yes.
Little superstar. I was really, really happy with that. So just bringing her back around, pop her on, do a really simple one. And then after that, I just would change the behavior. She's done really well, so pick something different. And in this case, I just thought I'd prove the round command to a jump wing. It doesn't really matter the object at this stage. It's not mapped into any sort of a process, but it's just a case of kind of mapping the behavior that we did inside with a cone to a different object. So then we can build up to doing it around trees, to doing it around people, to doing it around objects, to doing it wherever we want to do it. And then she needed her first bath time. So I've included some more of our desensitization stuff in this one. This is bath time, first ever bath, and she's got a Kong with raw food up at the top end with me. Dan's giving her a bath. So just learning about all these things and that it's absolutely okay. There's no need to be worried about it. And it's all essentially a positive experience for her. That's really important at this stage that she's in right now, which the first few weeks of any puppy coming home, this is like where they're like little sponges and you want to just expose them to as much as possible. We'll cover more on that next week, I think, because I'll have a little bit more time to talk about it. The shake. But this was a really good experience for her to meet that baths are all right, like baths are okay, and it's usually a positive experience. In the future, she'll be bathed with the warm hose pipe that we have outside for the dogs, but this was a nicer one for us. Look how clean and fluffy she looks. How cute. So this day for me was all about weight proofing. It was -1 degree Celsius. So really quite cold for her. But I thought that with the plank, even though it was frosty and frozen, she would be a bit happier to do these behaviors with me outside, which is where I needed to proof them. So all this was just for me and her to go out by ourselves. So Dan's not involved in this. And we're just starting to have some fun, essentially, whilst we're doing weights. So going laterally, which is really important for what we do and how we do it. I dropped the snack, if we're being perfectly honest, which is normal. And I'm just proofing some things that we did inside, and then I'm going to try and run away. But what I need to do is make sure she is still super engaged. So keep things simple, make sure that there's a really high reward frequency for her so she's motivated to complete the request that I'm asking her. And in this scenario, I'm running down a little bit down the paddock and running back to her. She did so well with that one. So big break and then big reward for us. And we can do one of her favorite things. Look at her little legs. It's so cute. She is so cute. I'm not particularly coordinated. Those who know me know that I'm not, but we also have some fun time and some play, which is really important for me and my relationship with the dogs. So I want her to think of me as the most exciting thing everywhere. I'm the best person in the room for her. I'm always on her side. We're always together. Not literally, but if I jump or say jump, I want her to always say how high and when and where and what are we doing, because that's such an amazing thing to have that kind of a relationship, and that involves a lot of play. I am not really harsh with my dogs. They all have really clear boundaries of what is and isn't okay. But what we do is we do this. We have fun. I still run around with all of the dogs. And I know some people might think I'm absolutely loopy and think that this dog needs a really firm hand, but I'm happy with how we're going at the moment, and I trust the process. I trust the process for sure.
Hey, Tara. What are you doing? Is mommy freezing? Yes.
What do you want him to do?
Funny. Well, you carry on first.
Well, I'm asking you what you want him to do.
Down. Yes. Good down. Sit. Yes. Good sit. Super.
See, she doesn't do it as quickly as that for me. That's not hard.
Does she not?
No.
Oh, well, here you go. Try it.
She literally, I couldn't even get to do it under this morning.
Just doing it close. Go on then. Just hold that and ask her.
So this is a really good time to cover how people ask things. So how she works for me, Dan's not going to have the exact same body language, the exact same positioning. So you can see just confusion in her. She's vocalizing by crying. She's not 100% on what's wanted. Dan's perhaps not being consistent with his reinforcement. And so she gets frustrated. She's looking for me for advice about, look, like, mum, seriously, what do I do? But she's also looking away from Dan, which is a disengagement protocol. So it's just a sign that she literally is just unsure. She's quite uncomfortable being asked these things because she doesn't know what she's supposed to do. Dan asks her for simple behaviors and she doesn't do it, but it's largely because he didn't tell her what he wanted. So I step in and just hold his hand into the correct place and feed at the right time. And then the future incidences of it are much more positive. I've just said, make sure you're rewarding when she's in position. This is really difficult because realistically, one person needs to handle the dog, but for us, we have two people handling them regularly. So it's really important that she can differentiate. And she did a really good sit back then from a down. So that was a really positive experience for us. And it meant that we can move on because Dan actually said he would give me a couple of minutes to help me out with something that I wanted to try, which was just to kind of prove the ball being held by someone or something or somewhere else other than me. And she looks at the ball when requested, and you can see there's confusion again. She's not 100% on what's being requested, but when we just focus back, calm things down, simplify, and heavily reinforce, even for head flicks in that direction, you can see that confidence really build throughout the next few clips.
Ball. Oops.
As a really vocal breed, I'm not that concerned about the crying, as long as the confidence is building as we're moving along, which it was, and it did. So we go through, just do some little positions. I know I need to keep that reinforcement there a little bit more for that close position, and probably reward with my left hand, to be honest with you. But that's something that I recognize and build on in the future training sessions that we do. And instead, I'm just working on reinforcement and criteria for remaining in the position for the under, and then we'll move forwards to do some reversing skills. Actually, this is a different training session that you're watching right this very second. So this clip, this is the start of another training session where what I'm wanting to work on is a stand. I don't teach stand particularly strongly. I train usually stay in the position you're in. But with this dog, I thought, you know what, why not? We'll train a stand. I train from a push-up from a sit, so not a flick back from a sit. it's just easier for the dog to understand, although the holding in position there is really important. Now, she already knows weight protocols, starting like this and remaining in position. As long as I've clicked, if she moves a foot after that, I'm less picky about it, but I will start to be much more strict later on when the understanding of what I'm actually requesting is built. So you can see how she already kind of knows what I'm asking for. I want her to stay. I can rock her backwards slightly on her weight when I reinforce that, if she needs to just be encouraged to set her weight backwards instead of tipping forwards. But really great progress with this. Absolutely fine for me to kind of move on to do other stuff, like our little reversing maneuvers. This is something that will take quite a long time to fade the handler from just like walking in a focused heel position. That also takes quite a while. Luring just takes a while. That's just normal. More desensitization work, hoovers, mops, microwaves, ovens, toasters, you name it. Power drills, anything that could happen and could be normal is made normal here. And I'm there with her essentially to make sure that we're not developing a chasing behavior. So she can observe it and watch it, but if she starts to try and interact or play with it, then I will intervene. And then, different day, different training session. Nighttime one, this one, I think. And we're going to start with some easy, simple things that she already knows before moving more into the stand position that we started in the previous training session. So making sure that she's leaving the pot and not going and helping herself to the food. Normal boundaries that I would have in place for the dogs, just like thresholds, just like not jumping up. All of those things are things that are just reinforced on the daily. No breaks in the criteria. It all stays the same. And when we've been happy with some position work, some sits and downs, some flats, we'll move on into the behavior that we're building on. So this is the behavior we're building on. So we've already introduced it. Now we're building on it. So this is starting to get a little bit further away. Puppy remains in that stand position. Again, as long as the clickers happen, the leg technically can move, but I will get stricter on it. So I'm pushing her backwards slightly with some of the food rewards, just so that she remembers that the weight is to remain backwards and not trip kind of like forwards or fall forwards from that. And again, just little baby bits.
Okay. And then.
You can see how confident she is doing that now. Oh, I'm so proud of her. This was a really fun one to do actually, week 3, just kind of building and reinforcement and making sure, little things like this, making sure I can touch her and stroke her all over while she's got things and there's no resource guarding building. That's week 3. See you next week. Things are going to get a little bit crazy.